How you guys doing? You ready to record? You know what, Fitzy? Yeah, I think I am. I'm bringing some fire takes this week. I'm fired up. Yeah. One sec. You guys see my background? Yes, Colin. Do you like it? All right, let's get into this.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. It is a dark day in the Why Do Boys Make podcast. Colin, Corby, and I just made one of, if not the, most fire podcast that has ever been put to tape. And I, your host, forgot to hit the record button. That's right. Finally happened. The podcaster's rite of passage has come to pass. So, there will be no Why Do Boys Make podcast this week in its normal format. Instead, what Corby, Colin, and I are presenting to you is a 3-part mini-series in Why Boys Play Games, each edited independently, sent to each other, and posted online without further review. So, this week, gamers, we will game on, for it is all that we can do. Corby, over to you.
Say no more, Sean. Thank you so much for that fantastic introduction. Welcome to a very special edition of Corby's Corner. Today we've got a lot of topics to cover. Due to real and fantasy football events that occurred in the past week, I am in a foul mood, so buckle up, folks. Let's start with the recap from last week. And let's start with what I think was Game of the Week. Fitzy versus Mike, where Fitzy tries to stay alive here, and he does. He pulls off the win. Everybody took Mike, except for Fitzy. I just said it, Fitzy. Like the Bee Gees, you're staying alive. Poor Mike has George Poopins, and Kenneth needs a walker, putting up duds in his lineup. But I think better days are ahead for the playoffs for Mike. Next up, we had Tyler versus Adam. The battle of the Big Y boys, where Tyler wins, and everybody took Adam except for the coin. Adam has a really, really rough week with Lamar Jackson, and Jalen waddled to the bathroom because he's got a full diaper, putting up some pretty bad weeks due to injuries. Other than that, I don't think there's much interesting happening here. These guys are two solid teams, and they're going to make a playoff push. Next up, we had Chris P versus Eric, where Eric wins. And we all saw this coming, because you know what Eric did. He hits the launch button, and he's in full orbit now at this point. Poor Chris P. He's got Pua Dungovailoa, and Derek beat Chris Henry. See what I did there? Over here, we have Taylor versus Brandy, where Brandy wins. I think my picking strategy here lent well to the outcome of this game. I chose Taylor, which led to Brandy's win. Taylor, Elijah more like Elijah less. You know what, man? Why don't you do me a favor and get Jamichael hastily off your team? It's not all bright skies for Brandy though. It's kind of scary. Brandy has Joe Burrow scoring 30% of the points on their team. But hey, they're still alive in the playoff hunt, and we'll get into that. Next up here, we had a crazy Chris Bowl with a lot of fantasy football playoff implications. Chris Colby versus Chris Cloud, where Chris Colby pulls off the win. Fitzy and I took Chris Colby, and everyone else took the Cloud. Like I said, I shot my shot here. I thought Chris Colby would pull off the victory, and I was right, thankfully. Poor Chris Cloud has a bad 2 tight end flex of Fart Andrews and Tyler Conklin Manuel Miranda. Not having great weeks for him, unfortunately. And now let's talk about why I'm in such a foul mood. It's Colin versus Corby, where Colin wins because my team is so mid and gonna be one and done in the playoffs, no doubt about it. Cortland sucking a cock. Played 3 quarters and had 1 target. Zay Jones, 7 targets, 3 catches against the Detroit Lions pass defense. And guess who's back now because we've got Purdy in for quarterback for the 49ers? Brandon Ayuk. Very, very scared. Fuck this team. Not going to be going anywhere fast in the playoffs. Colin, if only I hadn't dropped the Browns defense for Benny Snell. But again, we'll get into that. Let's go to the standings real quick. Colin goes 2-4. He's 44-28 on the season. I went 2-4, 34-20 on the season. Fitzy has a great week, 4-2, 41-31 on the season. Mike, our guest, and the coin shared the same fate, 3-3, with the coin being 31-41 on the season. All right, so let's get into that. I alluded to it here. Let's get to some transactions. We've got some pretty up-to-date, intense ones here because I'm recording late. If you look at the top of your screen, I don't know how to pronounce this gentleman's name, but Colin dropped Taylor Heineke for him. That's very interesting. I don't know. PJ Walker was dropped. Ben Skoranek was picked up. Desmond Ridder was picked up. John Wolford was picked up. Jordan Mason, Darren Waller, Tyler Conklin was dropped, regrettably. Evan Ingram picked up again by Tyler. That's great. Let's get to some more interesting ones, though. Here we go. DJ Dallas for $4 for Colin, even though I don't think he's going to play. Nice job, Colin. Waste of $4. Reminds me of DJ Dallas for $19. I picked up Nico Collins for $8. Again, who's not going to play, so great pickup on my part for sure. Brock Purdy from the top rope. Chris Colby plays the spoiler and drops $39 on Purdy. Love the move. This is an A+ move. Gotta love it. And of course, let's look at the bottom here. Benny Snell Jr. I dropped for Cleveland. Exactly 1 hour after I picked up the Cleveland defense. And if only I had started them, I would have won. But anyways, I digress. Let's get some name changes here. We've had a few. We had Chris Colby changing to Chris Bowl 2, then to I Hate Colby Island. Honestly, this is a great transformation here. I'm going to give this one a 9 for sure. I'm feeling bad for Chris. I hate Colby Island as well. Colin to Allen versus Predator. I mean, I gotta pay respect where respect is due, right? A 10 out of 10 here. It speaks for itself. Mike to counteract Chris Colby. Grave robbing on Colby Island. Yeah, I definitely. It's just nothing but dead things there. So, 8 out of 10. Eric changed his name to Empty. Eric with a lot of name changes this year. I really appreciate the effort here. Eric, I think it's great. I love the photo. Love the idea. It's a solid 9. And Taylor, for the first time in a long time, changes his name to Cursed. The only thing that's cursed is your management, Taylor. 1 out of 10. Next up here, we've got my new favorite segment of the pod, and that's Yahoo Writes These, brought to you by the geniuses at NBCSportsEdge.com. Let's start right at the top here with the best one maybe of the season. Stop trying to make Harrison Bryant a thing. I think a lot of us can relate to this this year. I definitely picked him up. Fitzy definitely picked him up. It's just a battle that you can never win. So just don't make it happen. Shouts out to the NBC Sports Edge for solidifying this. Next up, we had Kadarius Toney officially out, as per usual. A great, very slight, mean one. Next up, this is a good one, a fun pun, if you will. We had Taylor Heineke getting Taylor Teineke throws for 275 and 2 against the Giants. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Then, of course, we've got the Justin Fields watch. So let's begin. Trevor Siemian not likely to practice Thursday. Advice: we have advanced the Peterman start clock forward a few digits. Then we look at Justin Fields before the game. Fields' shoulder practices in full Thursday. Advice: the Peterman clock has been reset a few minutes. That's pretty good. I love the Peterman clock. I think that they've hit a really sweet spot in making fun of Nathan Peterman, and I think they should continue to do it. So, Yahoo Writes These. Love it. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it up, Sports Edge. Finally, we're gonna wrap up Corby's Corner here with my picks for this week. In the battle for Mike versus Chris Colby, in a game with pretty much zero playoff implications, I'm taking Chris Colby with the upset. He's peaking a little bit too late, but I don't care. Give me Chris Colby. He's my friend, and I love him. No more bad blood, Chris. I love you, bro. Next up, we've got my wife versus Adam, where Brandy, again, trying to stay alive in the playoff push. It's not looking too great for them, but, you know, let's look at Brandy's running back room. Don't start Hilliard, and who else? I don't know. I'm going to take Adam here. I don't think it's going to be particularly close either. Sorry, Brandy. Next up, we've got Taylor versus Colin. And I think Colin is going to absolutely destroy Taylor at this point, even though he has Dalton shits. Sure. Give me Colin. Another Chris Bowl. This is a huge playoff implication. Probably the final one of the year as well. Chris Cloud versus Chris P. Let's get through the breakdown here. We've got Ken. You please get him out of your lineup, young Drake. Marquise Brown noise. DJ, more targets, please. Just give me Chris P here, I guess. Me versus Eric. Eric has no quarterbacks at this point of recording, so feeling pretty great about that. He's also got Doffel Knox. He's also got Chris Godwin, more like Chris Satan Lose. And don't even get me started on Dalvin's Cooked, because I have the true cook in the kitchen. I also have Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, give me your energy. I'm taking myself. And of course, we've got Cyril Score versus Tyler. Fitzy trying to stay alive, as always, this season. Always pushing. Probably not going to succeed here due to these players. Najee, I ain't starting Harris. Devin Dudunay. And of course, Cam Akers. Give me Tyler. And that's it for Corby's Corner. Thanks so much for stopping by for a quick drop by. Let's hand off to Colin and see what the hell he's got going on.
Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Colin's segment of the podcast here. I got a few things in store for us. First, we're going to be looking at a new segment of Colin's charts. I'll go over my picks for week 14. And then we'll close out with bets of the week. So let's start up here. We got Colin's charts. Alright. So here's a series of charts I made. And this chart series is going to be called Peaky Finders. Like Peaky Blinders. So what we're doing here is, here's the standings for the league. We're going to be seeing, we're going to look at every team that has a chance of making the playoffs. And we're going to see, have they peaked? Are they about to peak? Basically, we want to figure out who's going to peak at just the right time for playoffs. Fitzy perfected this method last year. He peaked at, a middling team for pretty much the whole season, snuck into playoffs, and just peaked at the right time. His team averaged something like 200 points in the playoffs. So, who's going to be that team this year? Let's figure it out. First up, we're going to go 1 through 11. So, to start straight from the top, best team by standings. You already know who that is. Adam. So you can see Adam's peak. Adam has a very clear peak here. You can see the orange line is the league average. That'll be there in every single chart. And the blue line is Adam. So you can see here, Adam has had a team that pretty much has scored at or above the average almost every week, save one. The average, by the way, is about 148. So Adam has a great team, a nice low floor, but also you can see a higher ceiling. However, he hasn't really approached that ceiling since week 9. And Lamar's injury tells me that he might not get back there. Adam has a very good team. But is the ceiling there? Maybe. Conclusion is, I think Adam's peak has come and gone. He peaked too early. Now next up is me. I got a much less consistent graph than Adam. Adam likes to say I draft to have a low floor, or a high floor and a low ceiling. I see the exact opposite here. I've got a lot of bad weeks, or at least a few bad weeks, but I've got some high peaks, and it's unpredictable. You know, you can just see it. 2 weeks ago I scored, 180 or something, and then... So this is hard to say. It's hard to say. But Adam probably has a more attractive graph because his loads are a lot higher than mine. So, did I peak? It's hard to say. Conclusion, inconclusive, but I'm optimistic about my own team. I always will be. Tyler, now this one's tough. Tyler came out of the gates hot. After week 2, it was up, up, up. 3, 4, 5, just kept going up, and then a huge crash in week 6. And from then he's been slightly above average, save for, a couple weeks. But he's been pretty solid. But the peak, I think we can all say, especially with the injury to Cooper Kupp, is over. Tyler, he had a great team. Now it's a good team. And I just don't think, unless you get really lucky, a good team just isn't enough. Michael. Now this one is a scary team to me. He's been another really consistent one. He had 1 week, week 7, pretty far below the average. Other than that, he's had a great year. No high peaks, but he's been consistently at or a good amount above league average, which tells me that his peak has not yet come. And you can see in these past couple weeks, he's on an upswing. Mike is a scary team in playoffs. He's got a lot of league winners, a lot of those young rookies who start out kind of slow and turn it off on near the end. He's got a very scary team to me, not a team I want to play in the playoffs. But if I want to win the championship, he's in my way. So, if he's in your way, I'd be careful. Corby's got a tough one. You can see his slump there earlier in the year. Important thing to note is obviously, in the midweeks, from 4 or 5 to about now, you're going to see a lot of slumping because of bye weeks. Bye weeks are going to, obviously you're going to see teams do lower in the bye weeks when they aren't always going to have a full platoon of players. So we know, we're just going to try to look at trends. Obviously teams are going to do worse at that point. But, the league average should reflect that. So it all evens out. But anyway, Corby has a similar chart to Mike. But, maybe less of a, of a sort of trend to the upswing. Mike was very clearly going up, up, up. Now Corby, he's hanging at or right above the league average. So he's not a false team. He's not one of those teams that snuck into playoffs. He's a good team. But is it a league-winning team? I say no. Corby describes his team often as being mid. I 100% agree, and I think this chart really reflects a very mid team. He's had pretty much 1 week above, one. It was probably about 180 there, and besides that, he's got probably a lot of 160s in there and around league average, but no big peaks, and that's what you need. And I don't know if that can come for Corby. Chris P, this was a tough one, huh? He had the makings of a team that was, he had a few good weeks, kind of hanging below league average a couple times, but he had those big weeks that made you say, okay, this team can peak. But ever since week 9, you can see there, the peak has the floor hasn't fallen out, but the ceiling has fallen way low. He's hit about league average a couple times, but besides those 2 league average ones, it's been. I think the peak is gone for Chris P. Unfortunately, I don't think he has the firepower. He's got those great running backs. I just don't think he has the firepower to elsewhere to peak. So this one, if he does make playoffs, right now he's in line to make playoffs. If he does, I don't see it for him. Chris Cloud, this is an ugly one. This is a tough one. You can see Chris, I've said it a bunch of times this year. He started 5-1. And it's just been, it's been rough since then. He started 5-1. He was one of the teams, the 4 big teams that was killing the league. Mike took his spot then, and now it's fallen out. I mean, geez, he hasn't had really. He's slightly approached league average a couple times, but no, this is a not good team. The Josh Allen trade, I think, really hurt his ceiling, and I think this chart reflects that. It didn't help his floor either, though, so it's tough for Chris. But if he does sneak in the playoffs, I guess who knows? Any given Sunday, right? But conclusion, not a league-winning team. Brandy. So Brandy had a short period here where they were scoring, at or above league average. That was the peak. I think we can pretty clearly see that time is over. Especially these last couple weeks, not even approaching league average. That's tough. So Brandy could quite easily make playoffs. Just has to beat, I believe, Adam this week, right? So just has to beat Adam, and then they're pretty much in. So, but if they do get in, it'll be tough. It'll be an uphill battle in a literal sense, because you can see, you see the hills. Eric. Now this is a scary team. This is a team I don't want to play in the playoffs. Now you can see Eric had some decent weeks early in the year, but he had terrible luck. He was playing, some really good teams early in the year, and he kept losing. He's decimating the league in points against. He has like over 100 over the next closest. So he's been a bad luck team this year. That being said, he also did have some really bad weeks. But those bad weeks haven't happened since week 9, where you can clearly see it. Week 9, after week 9, you can see it. Visually, he pressed the launch button. You see week 10? Look at that huge peak. He's going to the stratosphere. Yes, it's been a little rockier since then, but even the rocky weeks have been what? Right about 150, above league average. Eric is a terrifying team. I do not want to play him in the playoffs. He's going to have a tough time this week with, virtually no quarterbacks. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But this is a team I want to stay far away from. And speaking of teams I want to stay far away from, Fitzy has done it again. If this man gets into playoffs, good luck to everyone else. I don't care that he's a 6 seed. I don't want the 1 seed, honestly. I hope Adam wins this week so he can keep the 1 seed, and if Fitzy somehow makes it in, I don't have to play him. Because look at this chart. Yeah, Fitzy had a terrible start to the week. We were all making fun of him. But then he hit the launch button of his own after week 8. Now he scored about, I think, 190 something, but he lost to Adam. And that's tough. But it didn't deter him, and he's been on a win streak ever since. And now he's got to pray for a million things to happen to make playoffs, which is a shame because if he won week 8, all he would have to do is win this week. He would be in control of his own destiny, and he would be in the playoffs pretty much. So that's really tough for Fitzy. But it's good for people like me and Adam and Tyler and Mike who have clinched the playoffs and don't have to get through this behemoth to get to the championship and win. Fitzy's done it again. Unfortunately, it was a little too late. Too little too late. Terrifying team. Please stay away from me. And, of course, here's Taylor. Oh, what a beautiful chart. I love this chart so much. This is why we pick Taylor in the... when we're looking at matchups, sometimes we pick Taylor. Because look at this. It's like an actual mountain range. Look at these high peaks and these low valleys. We noted when we were doing the live podcast from week 7 to 8, that's probably the funniest part of the podcast, that little plateau, because that's the only time you're going to see that in this. The only time you're going to see 2 remotely similar scores is 7 to 8. Other than that, it's up and down, or down, up. It's crazy. So I love Taylor's chart. We'll see what it looks like this week against me. Projections be damned. I'm a little scared. He's got 2 quarterbacks again. I'm gonna have to put up a good week to beat Taylor. I didn't do Chris Colby because he wasn't gonna make playoffs. I probably should have just because I did 11 others. Like, why not just do the 12th? So my apologies to Chris. But that's Colin's charts for this one. Peaky Finders. Don't forget that name. Funny. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. What you guys think? Who's gonna peak at the right time? I'm sure Adam thinks he will, and he very well may. Maybe Taylor Huntley has been held back a bit. So all that being said, I'm going to give my takes on the upcoming matchups. So first up, we're going to look at Mike and Chris Colby. I'm taking Mike here. Chris Colby finally killed that 7-game loss streak with a win. Regardless, I just don't see it. The issue with me... you saw the charts. Mike is peaking at just the right time. Projections are going to say he's winning right now. I'm sure Mike will pick up a nice tight end. And yeah, he has Kenneth Walker down right now. That's tough. But, I think the rest of the team will pick up the slack. I think Mike, I'm very fond of Mike's team. I'm very enamored with it, you could say. So I'm taking Mike. Chris, better luck next year, but I respect you greatly for, not just putting it down and sticking with it. That's commendable. As for Adam and Brandy, I mean, you know, obviously I'm going to take Adam. Um, Brandy's had a tough couple last weeks. Pretty low scoring. I think sub 100 for the last couple weeks. So it's tough for me to be on their side, and the lineup kind of reflects that. It's hard to look at. Next up is me and Taylor. Obviously, I'm going to pick myself. I'll always pick myself. I've picked myself every week this year, and this week is especially easy. Taylor hasn't set his lineup yet. I'm going to count on him setting his lineup. So right now the projections are obviously really ugly for him. But even once he sets it, I'm sure it will not be very great. So I'm going to take myself. I've got a pretty full splatoon this week. So hopefully I can get this win and then get the bye week and not have to worry about playing a fucking juggernaut 6 seed, as the 3 seed. Chris Cloud versus Chris P. Now, this is a really important game. I'm sure Fitzy will note this. This has really big playoff implications. Pretty much everyone needs Chris Padno to win, to beat Chris Cloud. Because if Chris Cloud wins, he's in the playoffs. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Chris P is going to win. We'll see if Tua plays. He's got Pickett on the bench just in case. So if Tua or for some reason Trevor doesn't play, she should be still all set. And then meanwhile, you look at Chris Cloud's team, who's got Lazard and Taylor on bye. That's tough. Those are two very good players who's been pretty consistent this year. Well, Taylor lately has been a lot better. But those are two big ones for Chris, and he needs all the big ones he can get because if you saw his chart, it's been really rough for him. So that's pretty easy Chris P for me. I think that's going to help a lot of people. And what also helps a lot of people is that he doesn't need to score a lot of points to win. Fitzy will talk about it, but a lot of people need to not only for Chris P to lose, but to outscore Chris P. And speaking of people who need that, it's Eric versus Corby. Eric has pretty much no quarterbacks here. He lost out on all the bidding, which is too bad because he deserves to be in the playoffs. He has an awesome team, and he won last week. He put up like 160 something, despite his quarterbacks having like 12 points. And for that reason, I'm taking the contrarian pick, and I'm taking Eric anyway. I don't care that he has 2 quarterbacks. I picked Tyler when he had 1 quarterback. I think against like Fitzy or something. And I'm picking Eric here. I don't know. He was also picking Corby. I just have something against. I just got like a boner for people who have 1 or 0 quarterbacks playing Corby. Maybe I just really don't like Corby's team, but I love Eric's team. Maybe fix the tight end there. Knox has been, very boom or bust with a lot of busting. Well, I guess he's been okay actually. That goose egg just turned me off last week. But I love Eric's team. It's a shame that it won't make playoffs, but I'm also happy it won't make playoffs because I don't want to fucking play him. And speaking of people I don't want to fucking play, Tyler and Fitzy. Here we go. Fitzy needs this one, and he not only needs this one, he needs to score a lot of points. Last week he put up about 180, and that's exactly what he needs again, because he needs to outscore Crispy by 50. I'm sure he'll get into it. Keep alluding to it, but he's got a great team also, another team I'm terrified of. I'm less scared of Tyler's team, but he still does have a very good team. So I'm taking Fitzy. I think Fitzy he'll pick up some quarterback, Davis Mills or something. And he should get the win despite all odds. But I still don't think he'll make playoffs. I don't think Eric will make playoffs. I think there's just too many coin flips. Too much in the air. So that's all the week 6 ones. Godspeed to those guys, but also not. I'd like them to not make playoffs. I think I can speak for all of the playoff-bound teams when I say, give me, Chris Cloud or Chris P or Brandy. I'll take those people. Although I'm sure I'll eat my words when I come to play them. Next, we're going to look at bets of the week. So we had a lot of bets last week. It was a very bet-heavy week last week. So let's take a look at what we had. So first we had Deshaun Watson. Corby set the over/under at 17.5 for fantasy points. Mike and Fitzy took the over, and Corby and me took the under. Corby originally said at like 20.5 or 21.5 or something, and I was like, no way. Even 17.5, I was like, yeah, no way. Like, why? You don't need to pass during against the Texans. And not only do you not need to, you really shouldn't if you have Deshaun Watson, if you saw. Played terrible. You're like, what do you have, 5.34? So me and Corby get the wins there. 5.34, terrible. Glad I didn't start him. Next up, Corby put this one over/under for Taylor, 110 points, and I was like, ugh, that's just mean, I didn't make the chart yet, so I didn't know. I guess I should have made the charts first because it's basically 50-50. It's a coin flip. He's either gonna get 180 or 70, and he just happened to have a week where he put up 79.6. So Corby and Fitzy took the under, and me and Mike took the over. And Taylor, you really let us down. But who didn't let me down was this next one. We got Jared Goff versus Taylor Heineke points. Mike was pretty adamant that he believed in Taylor Heineke. And I love Taylor Heineke. He's a fun personality, but not a great fantasy football quarterback. I believe this was the second highest scoring output of the year. He had 17.6 to Goff's 23.6. So Goff takes the win pretty handily there. So me and Corby took Goff, and Mike and Fitzy took Heineke. Shout out to Jared Goff. Great week. Mike White will be Colin's highest scoring quarterback. That's the next bet. I put this one forward. Mike White, I think, had just been my highest scoring quarterback, and I'm a Mike White believer. I think they're a really good offense with a lot of weapons. Maybe not really good, but they're a solid offense with a lot of weapons with him. Zach Wilson was really holding them all back, and Mike White, he's basically, like Flacco out there. You can trust him. He's not great. Maybe he's not a franchise guy, but you can trust him to throw the ball. Can't do that with Zach Wilson. So good for the Jets for sticking with this guy, and I love it. It's great for me. Me and Mike took Mike White. Corby and Fitzy took the field. Unfortunately, Mike White was the second highest on my team, right behind Goff. But I'm just glad I started the both of them. I had 7 starting quarterbacks, and I started the 2 highest scoring, and I kind of squeaked out a win, so that was very fortunate for me. Next bet. My team was very bet-centric this week. A lot of teams revolved around my bet. If Colin picks up a defense, San Fran will do better. Mike said, because I alluded to picking up a defense. I was like, I'm not starting San Fran. Mike was like, you should. And Mike was really right. And I kind of believed him. I stuck with San Fran. I did pick up some other defenses, but ended up dropping them and sticking with San Francisco. So I don't know if Mike, I don't know what's kosher. I don't know what's, I'll talk about it with Mike. But I just said this was a wash. But I'm not, I'll talk about Mike. If you're out there, just comment. Let me know if you feel a type of way. I really, because I did pick one up, and I would have started them if I didn't want to pick up John Wolford and get 7 starting quarterbacks. High spam night bid from a non-host. So we all took a closest to the pin. We all put in a number. I was the first one to say. I said 27. Mike said 18. Fitzy said 22. Corby said 31. And the winning bid was Chris Colby with 25. So closest to the pin was Colin with 27. Fitzy was right there, though, but it was close. I think the winning bid was 38 by Mike, so he knew what he was going to go for, but it was just a guess for who was going to be second, and Mike picked the lowest. I guess he thought everyone else would undervalue him, as he said when he was on. So that was it for the recap. It was a very bet-heavy week, like I said, lots of fun. And we made a few bets here in the podcast, and I'll just go over with those. So Fitzy had a bet. it's a remix of Corby. Corby said over under 110 for Taylor for last week, right? And Fitzy said, okay, that's a little generous. How about Taylor over under 100? Now I'm surprised he made this after looking at the chart. I think Taylor might not have a. He just scored about 80 points, so I think he'll have a bounce back week. Fitzy doesn't seem to think he'll bounce back very much, and he might be onto something. But I'm going to say I think he gets above league average as long as he sets his lineup, which I think he will. Put Kyler in there. He'll have 2 quarterbacks. He just had 1, so it's tough. So me and Corby took the over on 100. Fitzy has the under. We'll see how that goes. It's a coin flip with Taylor. The next one, Uh, if you saw Yahoo writes these, the Harrison Bryant status was very funny, especially after Fitzy started him. And Fitzy's going to go out there and pick up a different tight end. And I said, whatever tight end you pick up, Harrison Bryant will outscore. I think this week Harrison Bryant will finally become a thing. He's going to use that negative, Yahoo note as fuel, and he's going to score, a touchdown or something. It doesn't take a lot when you're a tight end, so I think just get a touchdown. They're probably going to be passing a lot against Cincy. They're going to be down with that defense. You know that Cincy's going to be putting up the points. So, and Corby didn't have a stake in this one. It was just me and Fitzy. But Corby did have a stake in this one. Corby says Devin Singletary will have less than 10 fantasy points this week. So last week, Devin Singletary, he didn't have a very good week. Did he? I don't even really know. Did he score a touchdown? I feel like he did. But the snap share, I do know, was about like 1/3 between Hines, Singletary, and Cook. And Cook had a great week. So, because of that, and they're playing, who are they playing? The Jets, I feel like, right? That could be a high scoring game. Bills defense is pretty banged up, and the Jets have been they can put up points. So I'm gonna take so I took the over, or the under. I mean, I feel like the Bills, Jets have a stout defense. I think the Bills are gonna be passing a little more dump offs to Hines and Cook. And you pretty much kind of just betting on a Devin Singletary touchdown and some yards here, and so I took the under. And Fitzy loves Devin Singletary, who famously was one of basically his RB1 to close out the year last year. That was one of the peak guys, him and Damian Harris. I'm sorry, Damian Harris, not Ramondre. Damian Harris and Devin Singletary, his two RB running backs. They were spectacular to close out last year. So Fitzy's biased towards Devin Singletary. He's going to take the over. Am I talking fast? I feel like I am. So me and Corby are taking the under. Here's a really good bet. I believe this was Fitzy who put this one. Will anyone blow their full fab? So a lot of people are in need this week, especially at quarterbacks. By the time of the recording this, I already know the answer, and I'll just go over it. But a lot of people needed quarterbacks, and a lot of people also don't have a lot of money because it's the end of the year. So is anyone going to basically blow their full fab because they need a quarterback? So Fitzy said no. He didn't think so. There's still games to play, and nobody has that few everyone has a good amount of money except maybe a couple who don't really need quarterbacks. So Fitzy said no, and then me and Corby said yes. I think Corby. Well, I don't know what Corby was counting on. I said my thought process was, yeah, I'm gonna blow my own horn here. I said I think Adam is gonna really want that bye week. He doesn't want to lose this week. He's gonna pick up Taylor Huntley, and also who knows if Lamar will be out for extended time. So I think he'll blow it all on Huntley, or whoever, Purdy or whatever, if Huntley's taken. And I was right. He blew it all on Huntley, so Adam did, and then also Chris Colby. He blew it all on Purdy, so good for him. Surprising to see him go Purdy. Oh, I guess no, it doesn't. I guess he was doing it for the consolation bracket because Purdy's probably going to be the rest of the season starter. Well, Huntley's just a replacement for a few weeks. So I guess they both got what they needed. They both spent all their fab. So me and Corby take that one. Will Chris be a 6 seed? Will Chris be a 6 seed? Says Fitzy. He's asking. So either Chris Cloud or Chris Patnode. Nice bet. Fitzy says yes. He thinks one will. I said no. Corby didn't say. He didn't have a opinion here. If I had to guess, I don't think anyone has a majority shot. I don't think anyone is like 50% or better. But if I had to pick one, gun to my head, I know a bunch of stuff has to go right, but I'm taking Eric. I think Eric's gonna win against Corby with no quarterbacks, and I think Chris Cloud's gonna lose, and then Eric has a really good points advantage, and and I think Brandy's gonna lose. That really is all Eric needs. So it's not ridiculous for Eric to make playoffs. I hope he doesn't again. I'll say it again. I hope he does not make playoffs. I do not want to play him. And I think that's it for segments. So I believe I'm second, so you'll hear Fitzy next. He's got some great segments. Or I don't know how they're going to edit and mix it up, but thanks for listening. I'm sorry this was a strange week. We made an error, and that's okay. Not a very listener-friendly podcast. I know the discussion is really the fun part, but hopefully this will be a nice, concise episode without all the tangents, and it'll be an easy listen, and you can everyone have a good week. Only one person can grab that 6th seed, and I hope it's I hope it's you if you're listening. All right. So Colin's signing off. Good luck.
Colin, thank you for your segments, and thank you for the great transition into my first segment here, the fight for the 6th seed. Now, I call it an unprecedented opportunity, and I really kind of think that's true, and I'll tell you why in just a second here. So let's take a look at where we stand. We have 6 teams, but kind of an asterisk there. Really 5 teams that are still in the hunt. With that many in play, you'd think that this fact wouldn't be true, but there's only one position still up for grabs. Because of that, we're entering the final week of the regular season with 4 meaningful matchups. So let's zoom in on the standings for a second. Up at the top, we've got what I call the gold standard. And these are the teams that are fighting either for the 1 seed or for a bye. Any of these teams could get the 1 seed. Any of these teams could get a bye. It's going to really come down to the final week here, but it's certainly less dramatic than what we're going to get into. And there's and I mean no offense here to the mics, but the even more boring section. No chance at a bye. No chance at missing the playoffs. Not really. Corby, you would need to have an immaculate week here. Chris Cloud and Brandy would have to both win while you lose, and Chris would have to outscore you by 160 something. So you're in. And then we've got the unfortunate 2 at the bottom that just can't make it. And we'll talk about Taylor's in a minute here, because you look at 5-8. I'm 5-8. How is he out? But we'll mathematically eliminate him in a minute here. Then the 5 teams in the middle that we're going to spend the most time on. I do think that the top to bottom listing that we've got them in here actually do represent the true odds to make it in. Let's go team by team here and talk about what it's going to take to get in. So the 4 meaningful matchups that we're going to be looking for this week are on this list. The top 2 and bottom 2. Now, some of these are going to be more meaningful than others to some teams. So if you are in the hunt, pay attention here, and we're going to talk about exactly what you need to make it into the playoffs. And the first one is the easiest. Chris Cloud, win and you're in. And surprisingly for a 6 seed, there's no help that anyone else can give you. If you win, you are in. And if you lose, you are out. That's what happens when we've only got 1 spot up for grabs here. You're facing off against Chris P. He's already got more points than you on the year, and he'd have the same record as you if he beats you. So it's really, really simple here. Chris, win in, lose, and you're out. We're going to keep your matchup here on the board, though, as we go through the rest of these, because it's relevant to everybody else. Here we got Brandy S. Corbett. Brandy, you need Chris P to get a win over Cloud, and you've got to win. Again, really simple. Not a lot of other things that can help you here due to some points for shenanigans. Technically, Chris P can win and you can lose, but you'd need to outscore him by 180 points while you lose and he wins. So again, you just need to win. Do your part. But again, I'm going to keep your matchup on because you're now relevant for the next 3 teams. Eric. Yeah, I looked at the top of this and I thought to myself, is it going to seem like I don't know how to spell Sinkowitz? I promise I do. The most important thing in your name right now is the launch button. Had to include the launch button here because you've been on a trajectory straight to the moon. You need Chris P to win, you need Brandy to lose, and you need to win. But here is, again, some funkiness here. It doesn't matter about the points for. You're currently a point behind Corby for 5th most points in the league. You've got all the tiebreakers in the soup. You need to win and pray that 2 other coin flips go the right way. Chris Patnode, now we're getting into some points for fun. You need to win. Brandy must lose. Eric must lose, or Eric must score 39 fewer points than you. So for the first time on this list, we have an actual need for points being scored. Again, technically this applies to Eric's as well. So again, hopefully you see here what you're rooting for, and I've been admittedly burying the lead because all of these teams do need to keep an eye on the Sir Score versus Tyler matchup. Because if everything goes just right, and Chris P gets a win, and Brandy loses, and Eric loses, and I win, I also need to beat Chris P by 50 points to sneak into the playoffs. And the final little piece to this puzzle here, I told you we'd mathematically eliminate you in a second here. Let's talk about what Taylor needs to win. He needs 5 coin flips. Chris P's got to win. Brandy's got to lose. Eric's got to lose. I need to lose. Taylor must win. And he also has to beat Chris P by 214 points while Chris P wins. So if Taylor can pull off a week where he puts up like 350 points, he's got a shot.
Don't let your kids watch it. Before you know it, they're going to be eating sports candy and moving and running and jumping and dancing and being healthy.
And since we're in this funny little format, why don't we dip into the mailbag live? I can't wait to see what all of our listeners have to say. Our first comment is from Adam, who says, least favorite mashed potatoes? Mike? Mike replies back, it's not that I don't like them, I just would rather have some more of other stuff, like some yams. Adam says, Mike Bekonowitz, I like yams. Respect. And I think this is the most respectful, I mean, it says the word respect, but I think this is the most respectful comment we've ever seen from Adam. Let's see what he has to say next. Least favorite cranberry sauce? Sean? I fired back. I believe you should have a little bit of everything on your Thanksgiving plate. But one decision has to be made. Cranberries or gravy? I'm picking gravy every time. To which Adam says, 5963, I will take both in some sort of fucked up Thanksgiving soup. Cranberries mixed with gravy and melted butter from your potatoes. Oh yeah. When we recorded this live, Colin had something to say about his comment. Adam, comments like these make me wish for a more practical thumbs down function. Disgusting. And the thing is, Colin immediately regretted this because he knows, Adam. He knows that you are the troll. You're just looking for the reaction. I want to hear your reaction to this accusation that Colin threw your way. Next, Adam says, it's all going to the same place, buddy. Surprised you didn't say corn was your favorite side, Mr. Corn Rocks. And Adam, this tells me that you must be looking on mobile. The listeners here are seeing the desktop version. But on mobile, I believe this does say Corn Rocks. The next comment here is Adam saying Colin's lack of championships is a good selling point too. Christian Watson still sucks. We'll see how many more touchdowns he scores before he stops sucking. Evan Ingram equals Dalton Schultz. Continuing the math theme, DeAndre Carter equals unplayable. Now, again, I'm just kind of flying through some of these. The discussion for the mailbag truly is where the magic is, because Corby had a lot to say about this one, Adam. Let me tell you. He agrees. Waiver priority is determined by reverse order of auction nomination order. You reset to 12 once you use your waiver via a fab tie. This actually should not be a surprise that Adam has a low priority, because Adam's making a ton of moves. We all know this to be true. We've seen it in the past. When we look historically at the league, Adam averages 10 more moves per year than the next closest, with Colin, Corby, Tyler, and myself falling in the 10 below that. Shout out to Brandy for being above league average, and shout out to Matt for making 2 moves that one year. In fact, sorted by moves within each year, we see that Adam has been in first place in 2021, 2020, 2019, and not since 2018 has he been anything but number 1 when he came in first place. Well, following that trend, Adam is in first place at the very moment. And if we look at the number of moves he has made, he's at 34. I'm above him by 1, and Brandy's in first place in the league with 39 moves. Brandy, way to make that push for the 6th seed. Next, Adam says, I don't care about podium finishes unless it's first place. 3rd is meaningless. Just to summarize some dialogue here, 3rd place is not meaningless if you get your money back. I'm a money guy. And as Corby put it, it means something to me. Next, Adam says, no mention of Adam jumping from 796 Yahoo score to 880 Yahoo score. Media stays hating. And I'll put my hand up on this one, Adam. If anyone is going to be on the watch for a plus 84 move in Yahoo score, it's going to be me, right? I really try to do my best to highlight any 40 plus, ups or downs. And this 84-point swing is absolutely noteworthy. So to make it up for you, I'm going to do a new small segment every week called Adam Watch. We're going to see if you can make it to the diamond. You went down by 5 last week. Next, Adam says, if I was Colin, I would start Watson and Goff. We did the math. Colin would have lost. If I was Corby, I'd drop one of the scrubs on his bench, Cooks, Carter, Pirine, and pick up Mike Boone and start him, or James Cook. Whoopsie. Personally, I might pick up Mike Boone if I don't get my way with Davis Mills, but we'll see. What unpopular fantasy opinion do I hold true? That first place finishes mean more than participation trophies. Good pod, boys. Now, this one, Adam. This one I hold very close to my heart because you found this before Corby or Colin, the two other co-hosts, did. Yes, I give people a nickname every week. Last week, Mike was the host, and we had Mike, at least I'm better than Fitzy Corbett. Sean, at least I'm better than Colin Fitzgerald, and Colin, at least I'm better than Corby Swords. I threw in a couple little buzzwords for the week. And for the past month, I have put, if you read these descriptions, answer our hidden question. What unpopular fantasy opinion do you hold true? So, Adam, you found the Easter egg first. And because of that, I'm not going to question this one. I personally, hot take, agree with you that first place finishes mean more than participation trophies. But if you had heard Colin and Corby talking about how much they love their participation trophies. Next, it's time for the current week matchups. And the first one we're going to cover here is Mike versus Chris Colby. It's a game that means nothing for the playoffs, but it definitely means something to Chris Colby. So, Mike, I like the way your team is shaping up. I like that you're keeping the New York Jets defense against Buffalo. And I really like Kenneth Walker. But he might not be healthy this week. And Cole Kmet's on bye. And Derek Carr kind of stinks. So even though I believe in you, it's just not your week. I'm rolling with Chris Colby. Next up, we had Adam versus Brandy, the 1 seed versus the 7 for now seed. And I'm sorry, Brandy. I just got to take Adam here. You had the toughest of tough beats because, of course, I'm cheating and I'm recording this after Thursday. I made these picks beforehand, but oh my goodness. Baker Mayfield starting after John Wolford hands the ball off 3 times, allegedly, so that Sean McVay can give John Wolford a pension? Ouch. Adam, I don't have too much to say about your team other than Tony Pollard versus Houston. 15.79 is a vast underprojection. And of course, a fun fact here that the only spots on the roster, line by line, where Adam is projected to score less than Brandy is Dulcich versus Kittle, which I don't know if I believe anymore. Dulcich is the only guy who Russ throws to. And Tyler Boyd versus Juju. We never know with Juju. He could go down in like the first play of the game. He's been scoring like 6 points a game. And Tyler Boyd, if he's not dropping a touchdown, he might score one. Next is Colin versus Taylor. And, oh God, Ben Skoranek scored 16 points. Taylor thinks his team is cursed. And sure, buddy. I'm picking Colin. Next, and I can't believe we put this one forth, but it's Chris Cloud versus Chris Patnode. This is the ultimate Chris Bowl. And here's what's going to happen, because it's exactly what I need to happen. Chris Patnode will win. But they're both going to go under their projection significantly. I need Chris Patnode to win with a score of like 115. So, good luck. Next is Eric versus Corby. We've got Eric, the empty man, versus Daniel Jones's baby. Now, Corby doesn't need the win. Eric really needs the win, and I really need Eric to lose. So this is really where we're going to define if I am the team of destiny or if Eric is the team of destiny. We've both needed the same things to happen these past couple of weeks, and we've both gotten them. So I'm not really sure who's getting smiled on. It could be the launch button. We're both feeling pretty down about our teams. Eric, because he doesn't have a QB, and me, because I didn't hit record on the podcast, and I am frightened by what that is going to do for my fantasy karma. I got to keep it simple. I'm picking Corby. And then in my own matchup, I originally picked myself. When we were discussing it, I was so confident that I was going to get my 6th win in a row. Even after Thursday night, where, my people scored over their projections and Tyler's went under, I just don't see it. Give me Tyler by a million here. Tyler is going to wipe the floor with me because I didn't hit record.
As always, let's welcome back in the coin.
Oh, that's right, Corby. I forgot about the coin. So, for all of you out there, the coin is taking Chris Colby, Brandy, Taylor, Chris Cloud, Eric, and Tyler. If the coin's projection comes true, then Chris Cloud will be in that 6th seed. But Brandy, he'll be right on his tail. Can't wait to see what happens. So, anyway, guys, I fucked up. My name's Fitzy.
I'm
Colin.
Corbett.
And gamers, game on!
We said it at the same
We
time.
fucking said it
did
at the same
Corbett.
exact time. We fucking did it. Jesus fucking Christ. Wow. I'm surprised this hasn't happened already.